Hello and welcome to Take a Beat, and this is an exciting month for IES because it's anniversary month. And so in turning 24, wow, it's turning 24. Already 24. So we have here, oh, by the way, I'm Tirza. I'm the digital pastor here at IES. For once, I forgot to introduce myself. And I am here with Gigi and Dave Kenney. And so welcome. So I have a question. I've asked this to everyone that have been on Take a Beat for the anniversary edition. What were you doing when you were 24? Where were you?
No, that's an easy one for me. I was 24. Turned 24. I lived in Hong Kong. I just moved to Hong Kong. I did a few trips to other parts of Southeast Asia, speaking for a few events. I might have been on a trip, but I was living in Hong Kong. I just moved there from Fiji. And it's where I found out I was going to be a pastor.
24, you mean just last year? What was I doing last year? So when I was 24, that was the year before Dave and I got married. So I was just traveling. I was based mainly in Malaysia and Singapore doing ministry. So
And at that point, you were already...
We were already engaged to get married, yeah.
I wanted to say dating, courting.
Yeah, courting would be the right
courting
word.
Maybe.
Definitely not dating.
Yeah. We didn't really date. We just courted and then got married.
You know, that's an interesting topic. I remember back in college, there's a lot of discussions over courting and dating, but maybe we'll save that for a different Take a Beat
Yeah, and it's
episode.
a completely different precept too, because that was all from that. I won't mention the name about kissing, dating goodbye or things like that. But that was a lot of philosophy that was being taught that proved to be marketing.
You know, that's a good idea for us to do a Take a Beat on.
Valentine's Day.
Yes.
What I want to do is how this is the part 3 of the anniversary. And we got left out. We were only brought in on part 3.
Because some people were traveling.
We weren't traveling. We were on vacation. We had a great vacation. Men, take your wife on vacation.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that I heard from Isabel that you had a great time. Lots of great food. But today, I actually want to talk about the IES Anthem, especially because people don't know that IES has an anthem.
Mm-hmm. That's primarily people don't know because it's kind of a silly anthem, and it was produced during kind of a silly moment. We were sitting around in our house, and we laughed about the idea of having a song, and then Pastor Misha came up with a few lyrics, and then we started writing the other lyrics.
While I'm cooking, we just kept adding more and more, and then by the end of the day, it had 4 verses.
Yeah, I think we had some verses that were not for public consumption.
Yeah, no.
The first draft, or the secret draft. So it was birthed in your kitchen.
That's right. Well, I was cooking and eating at the same time. We were just adding on. We were just having fun, and then it just came about and became a real
together
song.
Well,
Yeah.
we let everybody sing it, and everybody liked it.
You know, anthem sounds so serious. It's really more some kind of
anthem sounds up there like with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, it's more of like a reflection on the church, maybe on the fun side of it that time. So it's not really so much an anthem. We just needed to put an anthem just to make it sound
right. And there were a couple of things that we did include that were things that everybody who goes to IES should know about.
That's correct.
Yeah. So
especially the chorus part.
The keywords.
Yeah. The keywords.
Transparency and accountability.
So actually, I have the lyrics here. And I kind of wanted to go through them and see, because I know that even though it is silly and it is fun, but it does encompass a lot of the things that make up IES.
That's right. Like I said, it's reflective, especially the first 3 years of IES when it was, we were our first location. So
let me bring something in here. I think it's a really important concept. what we've always tried to create in IES is a culture of the church that is very specific about a lot of things. We do this and we don't do that, and this things. Now, the danger anytime you try and have a strong emphasis on what you do is the idea that you're implying that people who don't do the same thing are bad. And so it's really, really important that we feel like, all right, we feel like God spoke to us to do certain things, to shape a church into a certain kind of culture and everything else. But there's no implication in any of that, neither should ever be inferred, that this is the only way to do church.
That's right.
And if you do it differently, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so like our family values, there's a lot of people who don't share those same family values. It's okay because they're not in our family.
Yeah.
We're all Christians together. But this is just kind of a way of saying this is what we do, and we're happy with what we do. And there's some things that are kind of funny about what we do, but we're not saying if you don't do these things, you're bad. They're just saying this is what we do, something like that.
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, I grew up in a church that is very different from IES. There are some similarities, of course, but very different. But it's not an either or. For me, this works better. That's why I came here, even though my parents were pastors at different churches. And then even when I was interning at churches in the States or working at churches in the States, they do things differently, and it works, and it works for some people, and I just feel at home here.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yes. So, okay. The chorus goes, oh, IES, I'm glad to be in IES, where there's, what are the words? Transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about those two words, because those are the founding values or words or, yes, concept. But it's not really written anywhere. It's not on our family values. It's not on the love God, love others, reach the world. We don't really have any plaques anywhere that says transparency.
You haven't seen in my house. I have a huge one, no?
On this space. So what that really comes from is that when IES was first formed, the foundational principles that existed before IES ever had a service was these things. Number one, it would be a church where there are members, and the members have a say in everything that's done. Number two, there's transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
And we planned it this way. And then number three was it'll always be a missions church. And so before IES had a first public service, everybody who was gathering and talking about being a part of IES, this is what we said over and over and over and over. And so you're right, it's not in our family values or anything else. And maybe that's something that needs to be tweaked, but that's why we put it in a song, because it's a way of celebrating something that we absolutely believe is foundational.
And I mean, it's in what we do in everything.
We do those things, right?
Yeah, and even in any of the ministries, the idea of transparency and the idea of we are accountable to you, we're accountable to the deacons, we're accountable to people. I think that's so entrenched.
If a person does the membership class, they realize, for instance, that the transparency and accountability is by rule, something that needs to be followed.
Yeah.
So this will be done by these people.
Yeah.
And it's not a secret. And this will be done by these people and things like that. And so that's really where that whole thing comes in.
And that transparency has nothing to do with like the lyrics on a transparency, but
I
a lot
thought that's
of
what it meant.
We should bring back those overhead transparency.
I think transparency also included the way we handle, because a lot of times churches are probably not so transparent about how especially finances are handled. I think at IES that's one of the things that we take very seriously, that whatever funds that come in, whether it's for the church, it's for the kids, for the missions, it's all very transparent, and anybody can come in, especially if you're a member of IES, that you can go to Kamlesh and check out what's happening with church finances. And
we give a financial report every year for all the voting members, and it's not it's not a big spreadsheet. I mean, like for instance, early on we made a decision that people who the salaries of people that work for the church will not be disclosed.
Thank you.
But anybody who wants to, like my wife said, can come to Cumlish and ask to know what's going on if they're a voting member. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a voting member, you commit to this thing in the church. Yeah. One of the interesting things about it is that the only people who are asked to make a commitment to give an IES are the voting members. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that, because the voting members choose the deacons who run the finances of the church. And if you're going to be involved in overseeing the finances of a voting member, you have to participate. Yeah. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. But other people can come to IES and don't give any money to IES. That's fine. That's not an issue. But we conduct ourselves with transparency, so everybody knows who makes these decisions, how these decisions are made, all of those kinds of things.
And
that's what's transparent.
Not only the deacons are voted, but also the main pastor, which is
Yeah, that's true.
So every 5 years we have to check. Yeah, we get voted on and say, do you still like us to be here? So
and I think they still voted you in for 24 years.
That's right. So I'll tell you a funny story.
Oh.
The very first election, we have now, you go through a class and everything because we want everybody to be on the same page. But in the very first election, anybody who came to the church was allowed to be a voting member. Okay. And so we did, and we had our very first voting meeting in about March, and we planned, it was actually in September, and we voted all these things in. But what was really funny is we voted the bylaws, we voted all this kind of stuff, and some deacons and everything else. And we knew how many people were voting, because we had 72 votes. Mm-hmm. And it divide up, it adds up and everything else. And then when they voted on whether or not we were going to be the pastors, there were 74 votes. So we got elected in a crooked election. So I saw somebody voted twice, or somebody voted 3 times, or 2 people voted twice. And to me, it's just funny, and it's like, Pastor Dave, don't you take...
They just really want you to be...
It's cute, too, when my daughter was really young. She was like, maybe not quite 10, maybe she was 8, 9. Mm. She would just get sometimes nervous, like, what if they don't vote you in, Dad?
Can we still go to church there, even if you get voted out? Yes, Princess, we can still go to church.
Well, okay, so in verse 1, there's this, we start up with singing up in the sky, they're my friends and I. So why up in the sky? Okay.
Because we were on the 40, what is it?
It's Wisma 46.
Well, 46th floor.
Wisma 46, which is a big, tall building that looks like a pen.
A fountain pen.
BNI 46. Yeah. And by the way, when we IES started there, that was actually the second highest building in the Southern Hemisphere.
Oh, wow.
So it's right. And that was the first venue, and we met on the 31st floor. I think it went up to 46 or for something like
46,
that.
46, and then we had our worship rehearsals on the 52nd. They had like a few more floors up.
And they were smaller floors.
That's where we had rehearsals. So,
nice.
So we were really up in the sky.
It was gorgeous. It was really, really gorgeous. It was a gorgeous venue.
Beautiful.
It felt bad when they kicked us out.
No, because we just
outgrew the facility.
We outgrew the facility.
So, but that's why we sang it, because it made it really unique. So.
And actually, I think in every building we've been in, we've been also on the top floor.
Yeah, pretty close. I think
Stocko.
Stocko, yes.
Yobi.
And this one too. We were at the top of the garage.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So
it's always up in the sky.
Yes. I think the first thing, because that part is cute, but then when we get to though we serve, all is happy here, though we serve no beer.
That at that point we were getting a little bit silly. Yeah. But,
I was like, were there any questions about serving beer? We do serve coffee here.
Yes.
Okay, so verse 2. Dear, don't be appalled. Half our men are bald. Ladies are not shy. Tank tops, my oh my.
Which now is crop tops.
Yes.
So one of the issues, and you'll see that like there's numerous postings of the first service that my wife and I, when we came. So we weren't here. IES started without us. Mm-hmm. We weren't in any official way or form a part of the church, other than we were helping our friends plant a new church. and they wanted to invite us to be their pastors, but until there was a church, they couldn't invite us. And
Yeah.
when they invited us, we didn't know if we were going to be able to come. So where am I going with that? I forgot.
That's why the
Tank tops?
The tank top.
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah.
If you look at the original picture, everybody wore a suit
Yeah.
the very first weekend. So they had been going on for all of November, all of December, all of January,
all wearing suits.
always wearing suits. And the first Sunday we were there, we wore a suit. And the next Sunday I wore a batik shirt.
Okay.
And then people got more casual, more casual. And so there were some people saying, wait a minute, some ladies are showing up in tank tops, and so that's why that all came up.
So I think that's the thing about tank tops. It's, when you come to church, it's not really about what you wear. If you're there to meet the Lord, if you want there to worship the Lord, that's the place for you, regardless of what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So that's why the tank top is just
it's just a line.
a catchy line, but it's also true.
But it also was an issue. There were
Yeah.
some people who felt like, and the interestingly enough is that the second Sunday of January, or the third Sunday of January, third Sunday of June, which was Father's Day, we had a celebration after the service. We all went to picnic, and there was putt-putt golf, and we played putt-putt golf. And so we told everybody it's going to be hot. So at that time,
wear something casual. So.
Wear shorts, wear T-shirts, everything's okay. And everybody was dressed casual. And then we never went back. Like the next week, everybody was in shorts and T-shirts and stuff like that. And no, we didn't say, back to your,
Yeah. But actually, I just want to point out that like I said, it's not about what you wear. So if you feel like wearing a suit coming to IES, that's more than welcome. So
Especially it's cold here. Some people come prepared. But yeah.
One of the things I expressed about this, because I think it's worth thinking through, is my relatives that were farmers, and they had a suit, and they got married in that suit, and they wore the suit on Sunday, and they got buried in that suit.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, they dressed differently than they did during the week. Many of the people in those days in our church wore a suit every day of the week to the office. And so on Sunday, for them to dress differently, they were dressing casual.
Yeah.
It's the same effect. I'm sure that nobody thinks that God favors people with suits. Certainly we don't find anything about suits and tie in the book of Leviticus, And so, that's also the part of the point. It's just functioning in a different direction.
Also, like now I'm this is not tank top related, and apparently we are updating the lyrics to crop top to match the
times.
The times. Speaking of crop tops, I know that like on stage there is a no belly button rule.
Yes.
And so, without naming any names, how did that rule come about?
So there's been a lot of dialogue at different times in different places about whether there should be a dress code. And there was a period of time where
I think our dress code has always been from that period until now, is that when you are ministering, especially on stage, that you would dress something modest, something that probably wouldn't call attention to either to yourself or to anybody. So that was the rule,
Right.
and that includes, like, if you're wearing something like, say, a shirt. This is for both girls and boys.
Right.
Yeah,
It was a
It's
guy
not-
worship leader whose shirt was always too short, and every time he'd raise his hands,
He would see the belly button.
You
Yeah.
see it. And
Praise check.
We made the no belly button rule, and the dress code thing was we always tried to. At one time, there was a really strong group of people who wanted to have a dress code, so I addressed all the people up front, and I said, "You guys, there is no dress code. Dress modestly. If there has to be a dress code, I'll make it, and you won't be happy.
Yeah.
So let's just handle this way."
And I think
it's always worked.
Yeah, and it's always worked. People have always been very mindful of what they wear on stage, and as long as you don't show your belly button, I think you're okay.
And the belly button is the absolute rule. If you see your belly button, you're in violation of the rule.
That's fun. Okay. Here. I mean, this is the third. And
Don't be embarrassed. I wrote that.
Yeah, I figured. No, I was about to say, I think you wrote this. We all have a say. What we do today, we think our pastor is great, though he's overweight.
I wrote that because actually, I was surprised. I looked in the mirror the other day and I realized I was overweight. It's just like, it's almost like a quiet thing. Come on. It's a way of saying something funny and everybody recognizes, oh, Pastor Dave. Like I said, in IES, even our logo is round, and people, Pastor Dave, you need to get in shape. I say, round is a shape, So it's a funny line that I wrote. It's not anything for anybody to worry about. And everybody has a laugh and then look, is he offended? So.
When you said, I think for Living on Purpose, when we were talking about shape and you said that round is the shape, do you know how many times in the different groups it was brought up? Like, they're like, oh, Pastor Dave said round is a shape, so I have a shape. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So deacons here are swell. They all govern well. Rather than a fight, they will do what's right.
Yeah. See, that's really important because the deacons I was having a conversation with church governance with a friend, and the conversation was about this. Do the deacons run everything? Or does the pastor run everything? And what makes us effective as a team is that because we have clearly defined roles, we work well together without trying to, work in somebody else's role. Now, the deacons are voting members, so they're at the highest level of participation in the church. But the really important issue is they have the exclusive authority over how the finances, not just how money's spent, but how the structures of the finances are run. And because of that, then that gives them this area of responsibility. I mean, they're also responsible as any other voting member is, right? But this is something they need to do, and if they don't do it, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And that helps us immensely to not always be wondering, like, well, wait a minute, is this my role? Is this role? Or is that role? I often get lots of advice from them about, different things. But I mean, in the early days of IES, there was some question like, if we have a guest speaker, who gets to invite guest speakers? And if there's a guest speaker that we don't like, do we get to say, Pastor Dave, don't have that person anymore, or something like that? So those questions are all solved here.
Yeah.
They give input whenever they want, but their input is the same as anybody else's. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to how the finances are handled, it's their total exclusive area, which is wonderful to me.
Oh, yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
So one last question before we sing together. When we say we, it's not just us.
I got cut out of a trio, forced to join a choir.
So that last part, like they won't fight. So has there ever been any fights?
We got really close to some Taekwondo once. No, I'm just kidding. We have had we are blessed by the Lord to have an enormously wonderful string. There have been occasional misunderstandings or, discussions, but I will honestly say this. There have been a number of times when I came up with an idea I thought was really important, or at least moderately important, presented it to the deacons, and the deacons said, no, we're not going to do that. And then they came up with something else. And every single time, their improvement was better than my idea. And the fallacy is that I could roll in a long theological argument here based on the prophet Joel and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the point is, God works through all his people. If you have people in your church, why don't you want them to be involved in discussion and learn from them? So, and then if there's something that we do, is like if I get the deacon's input and stuff and it doesn't work out, I get to share the blame. Just kidding.
Well, this is the end of our conversation, but stick around and sing along with us. If this is new for you or you have been a part of IES for a long time and you have this memorized, just update the crop top part.
Church we're in, all is happy here, though we serve no beer. Come now as we cheer, there's no need to fear. Oh, IES, in IES, where there's transparency and accountability. Oh, IES, I'm glad to be in IES. Jesus bless my IES. We all have a say in what we do today. We think our pastor's great, though he's overweight. Deacons hear us well, they all govern well. Rather than a fight, they will do what's right. Oh, IES, I'm glad to be in IES, where there's transparency and accountability. Oh, IES, I'm glad to be in IES.